Okay guys, this is the second problem from the mini lesson on 12/2/2015, going over trig identities. Secant squared, that is on y'all's identity sheet. That is 1 over cosine squared. Secant is actually 1 over cosine. That's what's on the identity sheet. Since secant is squared, we have to square the cosine on bottom. Bring down the plus sign into the middle. Now bring down the cosecant. Cosecant is 1 over sine. Since cosecant is squared, the sine must also be squared. Look on step 3 of the notes I gave you from 12/2/2015. When you are adding and the bottoms do not match, you have to cross multiply. So you need to start at the top left and then come down. 1 times sine squared is sine squared. Bring down the plus sign from the middle. Now do cosine squared times 1. That gives you cosine squared all over. Bottom times the bottom, which is cosine squared times sine squared. So you just write those two side by side. So that's just going to be cosine squared, sine squared. Okay, now look at the numerator. Sine squared plus cosine squared, that's on the identity sheet. Okay, sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. Now just bring down the bottom, which is cosine squared, sine squared. Okay, if you look at that, that does not match the other side, so we need to work out the other side. So I'm going to draw a little line here. All of this space on the left is the work from the left side of the equal sign. Now I'm going to work out the right. Secant, we've already worked it out on the left side. Secant is 1 over cosine. Since the secant is squared, I'm going to square the cosine as well. Multiplying, because there's no sign in the middle of the trig functions. Cosecant is 1 over sine. Since the cosecant is squared, I need to square the sine. Now, multiplying, nothing crosses out on top and bottom. So now I need to multiply straight across. Okay, so 1 times 1 is 1. Then cosine squared times sine squared is cosine squared sine squared. And now the two sides match. So we are done right there. Okay, if you want, I'm about to erase this screen. You can go, if you're on YouTube or Twitter or however you're watching this video, drag the actual timeline forward a little bit so you don't have to watch me erase. That way you're not wasting any more of your time than you need to. Okay, we're on the next problem. We have tangent over secant equals tangent times cosine. I'm going to go ahead and draw a line right down the middle. Everything on the left is going to be this part, and then everything on the right will be the tangent times cosine. Tangent, that's on your identity sheet. Okay, look over towards the right at the top. Tangent, we want to change to sine over cosine. And that is all over secant, which is 1 over cosine, which is also on your identity sheet. When you divide with fractions, you always take the bottom and flip it. Okay, so I'm going to take the bottom and I'm going to flip it to cosine over 1, and I'm going to multiply. When we multiply, see if terms on top and bottom match. I have a cosine here, one's on top, one's on bottom, so they cross each other out, and I'm left with sine over 1, which equals sine, because that 1 on bottom is understood, so we don't have to write it. Now sine is all I have on the left side. Now I need to work on the right side so it can be the same thing. So tangent is sine over cosine, and I'm multiplying because there's no sine in the middle. Remember, with cosines, we never change cosine or sine. All we do is put a 1 on the bottom. So I'm just going to write this as cosine over 1. Remember, we're looking for like terms on top and bottom. I have cosine on top, cosine on bottom. They cross each other out. That gives me sine over 1, and that equals sine. And now the two sides match. Okay. All right, let's get ready for the next problem. Okay, the next problem was cotangent plus tangent equals secant times cosecant. I'm going to go ahead and draw my line over here. I'm going to work out the left side on the left side of this line, the right side on the right. So cotangent, remember we want everything in terms of sine and cosine. So cotangent, I'm going to change to cosine over sine, bring down my plus sign, and then tangent, I'm going to change to sine over cosine. Okay. Remember, if you're looking at your mini lesson from the day we did these problems on 12/2/2015, on step 3, I told you when you are adding or subtracting fractions, if the bottoms don't match, you cross multiply. So start at the top left, come down, cosine times cosine is cosine squared. Now bring down your plus sign. Now go from the bottom left up. Sine times sine is sine squared. All over. What goes on bottom is the bottom times bottom. So in this case, it will be sine and cosine right next to each other. So we have sine and cosine. Now look at your identity sheet. Okay, cosine squared plus sine squared, that equals 1. So I'm going to put 1 over sine cosine. Okay, now I'm done with that side. Now let's move over to the other one because it does not match secant, cosecant yet. We need to show how it does. So secant, I'm going to write as 1 over cosine times cosecant, which is 1 over sine. Now I'm multiplying, so I'm looking for terms on top and bottom. I don't have any, so I multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1. Cosine times sine is cosine sine. And now they match each other. All right, that was it for that mini lesson.